What in general is your general marketing mix to get people to come into the store?
Been word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
That's been substantially probably our biggest part of our growth, that, hey, so-and-so told me about this place.
Yeah.
I tried your product. I haven't been able to find it anywhere. And that's been really good. And as well as customer service, right? We are very intuitive of our customers' needs. We really are involved in their day-to-day. We ask them the right questions. What are you using this for? What's the purpose and use? I think that intimate conversation that we do try to create with them has allowed us to kind of be a part of their day-to-day, life.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Dispensary Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Kwan, and I'm joined today by Raju. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Pleasure and honor to be on the platform, man. And opportunity to check out the stuff you've been doing, following yourself as well. And then very happy to be on your podcast as well today, man. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's hop right into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Raju Saini, owner and operator of Piffingtons Cannabis Co. At the moment, I got 3 locations and just trying to do something a little different than the average dispensary. We've had great success with our customers as well as within the industry, and just trying to kind of create some new waves as well as set a higher standard of quality cannabis in the industry.
Awesome. Yeah. So how'd you get started? Did you always want to be a dispensary owner? I don't know many people who, came out the womb and was like, yes, this is what I want to do. What was that kind of transition like for you?
Well, it was a very unique one, to be honest. And one of the biggest things that really kind of drove me to the industry was the therapeutic benefit from it. And as I kind of told you a little bit prior to us kind of doing this, I've been using cannabis for pain management for the last 14 years. And for me, I've had a great amount of success in the products that I found to help me manage my pain, both physically and mentally through my accident. And for me, I just wanted to be a positive advocate in the community and to be a voice of reasoning and to kind of change the narrative of how people use cannabis. And I figured, creating a place both for recreational, but as well as a safe place for individuals to come through, talk to us, and ask questions that I had in the start. And for me, I think that was probably the biggest reason why I got into the industry, was to provide education, provide information to those seeking it, and as well as an opportunity to try a lot of great products, right? I'm a connoisseur by heart, and for me, I've always loved to try new products, new strains, and the last 3 years has been remarkable for that, for myself at least, to be able to obviously have great conversations with vendors. But the biggest thing and reason was to change the narrative of how cannabis is thought of when it comes to therapeutic use as well as medicinal, and to create a safe place for people to come and to ask those questions.
Awesome. So 3 years so far, 3 stores opened up. Which one did you start with, and what location? It
was Kitchener. Me and my brother-in-law went for a drive, and we were just looking and we found this really great community with a great abundance of people as well too. And we did our research, and we felt like this is where we wanted to kind of put the first brick, more or less.
Right.
And to be honest, from that one, it was a bit of a snowball effect. Within 3-4 months, we found our Milton location. And then from there, another 2 months, we ended up buying a business out in Brampton and putting another brick there as well too. So within like 8 to 9 months, we ended up having 3 stores on the verge of being built out. We learned a lot of good lessons on the first one. And the nice thing with that one was it was at a smaller scale, smaller building. So the mistakes that we did endure weren't as bad because, again, the scale of the store was a lot smaller. Yeah. And as we grew, we made sure that some of those mistakes didn't reoccur, which was great for us just to kind of learn on a smaller scale. And, it helped us really kind of see and focus on what we need to focus on, which was great products as well as good energy and great supporting staff.
So would you recommend, if someone's just getting started, that they start with a smaller store?
Well, the first recommendation I would tell anybody that's getting into the industry, you got to love what you do. Right. If you're coming into the industry on the merit of just making money, then you're in it for the wrong reasons. Money will come. It's the consistent growth of you as an individual. But, my best suggestion is, start small. Know what you're focusing on, who you're focusing towards. I think that's the biggest part when newcomers come into the industry. They're not really focused on the demographic or the market or the clientele that they really want to kind of cater to. And I think that's where a lot of people lose out, where they spend money on products that they don't know about. What's the purpose? What's the use for it? So if I was going to say, my main thing, make sure you love what you're doing. Secondly, know who you're targeting and what demographic and market, and stay true to it. And I think the customers in the long term of it will respect you and appreciate you that much more than you to kind of buy products just based on, say, a margin. Obviously, margins are great, you know, but you also want that customer to come back and buy that product 10 times. They're also going to be advocates for you when they're out there and about, and when they're kicking a session with their friends. And when you have something that's exclusive that no one else has, that's how you're going to also draw new clientele to your store.
Yeah. And, you know, for those, you know, I guess in other places, not in Ontario or not even in Canada, and the listeners that are in the States, Brampton, Milton, and Kitchener have drastically different demographics. So Raju knows exactly what he's talking about, because I'm sure if whatever strategy he used in Kitchener, he wanted to do it for, let's say, the Brampton location, it would be completely different, just because his products, the vibes, just the people in the store just wouldn't be resonating with whoever's purchasing, right? And I think that's a big part.
It is. And that's where, you know, in the starting of it, what we did in Kitchener was polar opposite in Brampton. It was a lesson learned for me in a good way. It didn't cost me too much, but I also saw the demand, the needs and wants from certain customers. Mind you, my Milton store is completely different. There's certain products I can leave on my shelves on the lower budget side that people won't just entertain. Because you have, you know, a dozen other ones with the same similar products or the same price point or the same quality, where over there, it's a very unique demographic where they crave quality products. And that's one thing that I've learned between the three of them is, you know, give the people what they want. And then as well as everything that I do and like may not be the same thing for everybody. That's okay. You know, for me, that was a big part of my purchasing part in the starting. I purchased a lot more for my palate, not for the consumer.
Right. Well, I mean, that's just kind of just part of the journey. You know, they say, you know, action creates clarity, right? So it's like, at the beginning, you have no data points and you just have like, okay, your own personal taste and what you think might work, right? And then as you continue implementing things, you're like, okay, well, this product left the shelf a little bit better. I'm going to stack up more categories of flower than I do beverages, or maybe edibles sell better in this area than, you know, tinctures and concentrates or whatever it is, right? So it's not even necessarily like, hey, here is, you need to have X% flower, X% edibles, X% beverages, because that pie changes based on demographic, the type of store you have, the type of customers you're servicing, even if it's in the same city. And season too.
Right? You have a lot more people using edibles and 5-10 carts during the wintertime. You know, you don't want to be outside in the cold when it's minus 20 out here in Brampton or Toronto, right? And people are looking for a quick fix. And then you also get different sizing and formats. That's the other thing that I realized as well too. There's some individuals that actually like to kind of sit there and actually enjoy a full gram, where there's other individuals that are finding, you know, quick little sparks of like 3.5s just before they're making dinner for their kids, or before they got to go run out to soccer practice, or just, you know, doing things around the house, for instance, right? So, you know, having the versatility in some of the products and the sizing and during the seasons is very important, as you mentioned, right? And being intuitive of it is very important as well. And the data shows that a lot, right? And if you're focusing on that as well too, it'll just give you a better perception on what to buy and how much to buy at certain parts of the season as well. Summertime, people want to try beverages, right? So you won't hold down. You
never know. Exactly. So aside from, you know, obviously it sounds like you're doing an amazing job curating your products based on the specific audience that, you know, specific demographic that you're serving. You know, what would be your mix? So those would be customers who are already in the store and stuff like that. What in general is your general marketing mix to get people to come into the store?
For one, we try to really kind of versatilize our menu. We try to find a lot of products that other dispensaries aren't carrying, for one, as well as, you know, craft quality products. The one thing that I like to do, you know, especially with the LPs, is to continue to have a great communication line. And for me is to always be aware of certain products that are coming into the market months prior to it actually being released. For me, it gives me an opportunity to both educate myself on some of the genetics that they're bringing in, who they're sourcing it from, you know, and as well as to see, you know, is the market in need for these particular strains. So there's certain strains that some, you know, LPs are doing great, and you know, you keep hammering down, but the question is like, hey, what else is new coming from you? like, again, to the first thing that I brought, I've always been that individual that's always wanted to try something new every time, every week. I don't sit on the same product. So again, for our customers, they're kind of the same thing, especially like the rosin guys, for instance, right? They're very unique. They love their flavors. They always want to try new things in the market. So we're always trying to rotate certain things on our menu. Certain things will keep staple and then, replace them if they're not in stock. But it's continuously keeping that menu fresh and healthy, as well as just seeking products prior to they coming out and educating them before they come out.
All right.
For me, that's been a blessing in disguise, because now you're putting groundwork on sales that haven't had happen, but they're going to be excited when they do come in, and they already know the product before it comes in. I already went through that, walkthrough.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of that as well, too, to retraining the customer, but as well as getting them excited about products prior to it.
Yeah. So you have your core product offerings, which, mainstream popular. When somebody comes in, that's what they're going to buy. Your Kit Kat, your Doritos equivalents and stuff like that. And then you have your future products coming out, which might be a Doritos Flaming Hot exclusive edition.
Right? They're more or less at the Percy weed, for instance, stuff that's for your personal use.
Yes.
You're going to spend that $45. You're not going to want to share it unless it's a really good friend and like, hey, check out this stuff, right? And depending on how, the age you're at too as well. But for me, it's for us is like, we try to find the desserts of cannabis. And when we talk about it, we get excited because we love smoking it, trying it, tasting it. That also tells us how to kind of give those key words for the customers as well.
Right. So is it a big social media play that you're using? Is it like community building? Are you sending out flyers in restricted areas? What's kind of your general game plan on getting customers in the door that don't know you exist?
Been word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
That's been substantially probably our biggest part of our growth, that, hey, so-and-so told me about this place. I tried your product. I haven't been able to find it anywhere. And that's been really good. And as well as customer service, right? We are very intuitive of our customers' needs. We really are involved in their day-to-day. We ask them the right questions. What are you using this for? What's the purpose and use? I think that intimate conversation that we do try to create with them has allowed us to kind of be a part of their day-to-day, life.
Right.
And they go back and they tell that experience to the, either it's your sister, their cousin or friend, and they're like, hey man, you got to check these guys out. For one, we remember most of everyone's name.
Nice.
We remember what they buy.
Yep.
We, recommend according to what their wants. We're not going to just sell you something because we haven't sold it. We're going to give you something that you want and need. And I think that really reciprocates with the customer. And they've been our biggest advocates for us, as well as social media stuff as well, too. We do a lot of vinyl giveaways every month. All 3 stores. I find classic vinyl LPs that I like to give away. I'm a big music head myself. And if you visit any of my stores, you'll see some of that energy as well within the displays and the decor and stuff like that. The fun thing is that when someone comes new into one of our stores, you can kind of tell just based on the way they're looking. They'll be looking at the different Funkos or the vinyls or the different, decorations that we put out. And we can just say first time and they'll be, yeah, we could tell, just because they're not looking at products so much at the start, they are the store and the things that we put in there. Just so it's a little bit of like, kind of like a time capsule. I was an 85 born baby. For me, there's a lot of firsts in the industry from CDs to Discmans and all that fun stuff, and just different technologies, the internet. So when they see that themselves, it's like, it's a period of time that was like very warm or, very memorable for them. And that's where we get to start the conversation, not just off cannabis, but just things within the store. And then to the fun stuff after.
Right. I mean, look, that's good. It sounds like you're doing it for more than just the transaction itself, because you see in other stores, they have this the standard blacked out windows with somebody accepting the ID through this like little window, and then you go inside and it's just shelf product, like nothing else. There's no like branding or anything like that. And I think a lot of people talk about that as fluff, but it's like, no, like you're doing it for the environment, for your customers specifically, so they associate.
Culture, right?
Exactly.
That's our motto, right? Connecting people to the culture, and we truly embody that. And I can confidently say that. And I think that's where people really resonate with, is that we're not just here, again, trying to just sell you on something just to sell it. We want you to love it. We want you to give us good feedback and bad feedback. And for me, that's been the biggest thing. Like, I've been, between me and you, recreationally using for the last, I say 22, 23 years,
right?
But medically using for the last 13. And the last 13, you know, having access to a lot of medical dispensaries that I visited prior to legalization gave me a lot of good insight on some of the good things that I saw through that process, and to kind of take some of those things that I got from those experiences, from those dispensaries, and applying it to my store.
Right.
You know, one of the ones that really stuck to me for a very long time was CALM, cannabis as living cannabis as living medicine. And those guys, again, were meant, you know, for those individuals for medical purposes.
Right.
The thing that I was really astonished and to see at that age was the amount of diversity of individuals that walked through those doors. It wasn't just individuals, you know, young kids or individuals, you know, that you didn't think. I saw people and, you know, I saw doctors, lawyers, professionals that came through those doors that were using cannabis for medicinal purposes. And I was just, you know, shocked because, you know, there's always that stigma that cannabis is just a negative, you know, a negative thing. And when I saw that, it really kind of, you know, it hit home in a sense where it's not just myself using it, it's all walks of life, from individuals at that time, about 23, 24, to individuals in their 70s and 80s that are using it for, you know, arthritis, for glaucoma, for management of MS, or, you know, cancer patients. It just allowed me to understand that much more about the product and be more curious, just not on the THC aspect of it, but all the other supporting cannabinoids in the flower and how it could be utilized in such a better use.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, things really kind of opened my eyes on that sense, man.
Yeah. No, look, I think everything you're saying is really awesome. You can kind of tell just based on people's outlook on even something like owning a dispensary, right? Is it specifically a business thing for them and they want to make money? And again, if that's kind of what they want to do, great. But it sounds like you have a much deeper, I guess, fulfilling pull towards this industry as a whole than, you know, your person that is, hey, I have some VC money, you know, let me spend a bunch of money and, you know, kind of, you know, take over a bunch of stores and stuff like that.
And that's not the case for us, man. Like, we really strive on helping people, and also for finding products that they can enjoy on a camping trip. So it's like both sides of the spectrum, right? And education is the most important on both sides of that, right? So
that's awesome. That's awesome. From your in-store, because it sounds like you focus a lot on the customer, right? And I think that's number one. So whether it's product, whether it's in-store vibe, whether it's, you know, ABCDFG, do you, to continually improve on, I guess, having your brand be most attractive to your customers versus somewhere else, do you like take surveys? Do you just continually talk with your customers coming in? Like, what is your process on making these improvements? Like, how do you know which products are going to be hot? Like, is it just a feel? Like, what does that process look like for you?
Well, there's two sides of it. One, I rely on my own instinct as well as my team.
Right. Sure.
Everybody on my team, we have our R&D group. We try to communicate and talk in there. I get my team to try certain products to make sure that they're, you know, enjoying it, get their feedback as well, the good, bad, and ugly. Yeah. And then we do have a great base of, I would say, piff heads that really kind of come back to us, and we like to talk and we like to ask them their insight. Again, back to what I was saying earlier, what might be great for me may not be great for the next person.
Right.
So if I have certain individuals that come into the store, I'll kind of pull them to the side, like, yo, break it down to me, man. How was the experience? What'd you think? Did you like it? Like, you know, should you bring it back? Would you buy it again? And that's probably the most important, right? Would you continuously put this in your repertoire?
Right.
And, you know, 9 out of 10 times we've been pretty good. Mind you, if there's obviously certain drops or certain products that don't hit all the notes for us, but customers are still happy with it, then we'll continue to do it. But it's that continuous conversation with our customers, and as well as LPs, man. Most of the LPs that we talk to, they're pretty honest with us. They'll tell us straight up, like, hey, this is the batch you need to hammer down, or stay away from this lineage. It didn't kind of come to our standard or your standard. So we would recommend you checking this one out and that. So conversation, man, I think is the best thing for us with both our customers as well as the LPs, and then bridging that together.
So you are one man, at least I think so. I haven't seen you in 3 rooms, you know, maybe you have triplets or something like that.
No, I wish. like that Tom Hanks movie, I think, or Kevin Bacon movie, I think it was.
So yeah, but you have 3 stores, right?
Yeah.
And you know, as we mentioned at the start of this call, each demographic is slightly different just based on even the intersection you're on, right? So if you are at one store and you can kind of manage this and get feedback and stuff like that, are you just driving around to all of these different places? Do you have like a rock solid team in place that you've trained?
I have a great
what does that
team,
system look like?
Stores, and as well as assistant managers and, you know, my budtenders. I'm always going to each store every day, more or less. And then some days I'm actually going to all 3 stores.
Wow. Okay.
And for me, it's a continuously to interact with my team as well too, see what their needs and wants are. Yeah. But yeah, to be honest, I am at each store at least once a day, every day for at least 5 to 6 days a week.
Wow.
And for me, the involvement of my brand is very important to me. For one, both my customers enjoy, I would hope, conversating with me and interacting with me, as well as my team as well too, to keep them motivated, as well as to make sure that they're okay, right? Not just with work, but, you know, day-to-day life. You know, essentially I tell them all the time, I go, it's because of their hard work, my dream's able to come true. So I always want to make sure that they know that I'm there for them. And if I need to be physically there more often, I try to be. But yeah, man, I got to be at each store, or at least one store a day. And even if I'm not, I'm still calling in, checking in, or, you know, looking at the footage to see what they're doing, if, you know, they need help, or I just try to be a jack of all trades for them as much as possible, both on the clock and off the clock, man.
That's crazy. I mean, well then, I guess first off, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy week to hop on a call like this, because then you could easily be on the road and just driving around. So, you know, thank you very much.
My brother.
There was an interesting point you made about having honest conversations with LPs, where an LP might be like, hey, this batch might not be the best one for you and stuff like that. And that's like, you know, on the verge of that radical transparency thing where they might be losing the short-term sale, but they're benefiting from the long-term relationship, right? So how do you go about even getting to that level with these LPs and these reps where their incentive is you get a commission on the products that you sell, not necessarily building the relationships if they plan on, you know, jumping ship?
Well, I think the hard part for me in the start was I've never been, I wouldn't say confrontational, but I've always had a hard time saying no to individuals. So for me, that was a lesson that I had to kind of learn, because if I don't say no, it's going to be the cost of my brand and my business. And for me, you know, I try to be honest as much as possible with them, and I think they appreciate that. And like there's certain brands that we just don't have on our shelves, and I've explained that to those LPs as well too. And there's no knock to them. And I make sure that I tell them directly that it's not personally to you. I get it. You have a job. I have a job. But at the same time, too, I want to make sure that they know that the conversation's never done. Right. So, you know, there's products that some brands have, you know, gone from A to Z, and through that process have substantially gotten better. I don't know if it's directly from our input, but if they bring certain things into me, I just try to give them certain feedback that I would suggest to them. And if they end up taking it back to the guys, you know, in the boardrooms, like, hey, so-and-so said this and we should try this. And if it works for them, great. And eventually when they get better, we can bring them in. But that's where it's a hard conversation, but it's needed, because if we don't keep the LPs honest, who's going to? Because the customer is not going to be able to directly tell them straight up, like, this is trash.
Right. They get mad at you, actually.
Yeah, and we have to take the brute fight. Yeah. That's why it's like, you know, as much as I want to be an advocate for your brand, I don't want to be the doormat that, you know, for your our customer.
Yes.
To stomp on it. So I'd rather be honest with the LP and then be comfortable selling the product, knowing I can stand behind it and put my money on it. Right. Because there's customers that come in like, oh, you know, it's only 23%. I don't think it's going to hit, man. You know, there's other brands out there for like $20 at 30%. And I'm like, well, let's see how true those percentages are. Like, I'll give you a product that's 23% that's going to knock your face off, and you're going to come by and buy it 10 times back and be happy with it and tell me that, oh, it tasted great. It was clean ash, that the experience off it was wonderful, and that my friends were just raving about it. But it was only 23%. And then you get another product that was 35%. And then you question, like, am I high?
Yeah,
and then
33.
But then you wonder, like, am I really buying a percentage now, or am I buying a brand, or what am I really buying here now?
Right.
And I think that's where we have to explain that to the LPs. Like, don't give us fugazi numbers, to be true to it, because at the end of the day, when you smoke it, the proof is in the pudding.
Right.
People are going to know if it hits or not.
Right. So I had a hypothesis a few years ago about similarly to what you're talking about, where very much so, definitely in the beginning and maybe still now, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, where the preference was just the highest THC percentage possible at the lowest cost.
Yes. And that's an evolving request every day.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's also mismanagement of information, both on the ground level with the retailers informing the customers.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's also wrongdoing by the LPs to think that, THC is the precursor of good quality. Right. And I think that's where, we've had an opportunity to educate our customers. I have a lot of customers that come in that didn't know about terpenes, and now they come in, they ask me what's a terpene percentage before they ask me about THC. And that's a wonderful interaction. And like for us, we're like, yes, we converted one. We converted two. So for me, that's been, a journey. And I think my bud tenders see the boot, interaction with that a lot more. Because everyone comes in, I want the lowest percentage, or I want the highest percentage for the lowest price. But you don't go to the LCBO and say, I want the cheapest liquor and the highest liquor content.
Yeah.
We ain't bootlegging moonshine here, right? Like, all reputable products here. And I think that's where, again, there has to be some accountability to those numbers, and also the education of the flower as a whole. Because there's products out there that do more for you than just a THC. Yeah. For me particularly, I love cheese strains because I find it very medicinal for my pain management. And it doesn't have to be 30% for me to get the benefit of the strain. Right. So that's where I think the misleading information that some of these LPs educate on some of these bud tenders is misleading. It's easy to make a sale when the product's 52% THC infused. It's an easy sale, but eventually the person's going to get bored of it, or they're going to be like, hey man, it doesn't hit like a 52%. Is it really 52%? And then we look bad because then we're vouching for you. We're the ones that are taking the knocks, nobody else, right? So education, and honesty, and as much as we can do that in the industry, I think is going to benefit us as a whole, right?
Are you finding that the education is now making a change in terms of people only looking for THC percentage, or we still got a little ways to go?
I think there is still a bit of growing, and I think there's going to be a lot more humps on the way. With the new improvement with the OCS as well, implementing their own checks as well too, I think there's going to be a little bit more honesty that's going to be kind of coming through the industry. I think if some of the, that's why we try to push craft and some of the more quality products, is because those guys are more intuitive of the product. A great company like Frost, we sell a crap load of their product. No one's ever come in to ask us about the percentage. They want to know the strain. They know their quality. People love it. And that's where I think if we had more individuals on the floor level when it comes to education of the customers, there will be a faster change. But again, the younger generation, when I mean younger generation, like that 19 to 25, we've all been there, individuals in universities, college, they're on a budget. So they want the best bang for their buck at the highest percentage. So I get that part of it too as well. But that's a different market. And that's not a market that we're really focused towards. We like the guys that understand the prestige, ness of a product and what it was and where it came from. But it's just on the market, right? Like who you're targeting, who you're trying to cater to. But I don't see that going away anytime soon until we as a whole, especially the LPs, really start kind of taking the THC percentage out and start grading flower
Right.
with different merits. And
Right.
I think that will really abolish that selling point of high THC, low cash, where if you could sell something based on like, hey, it's a trip, it's a quad, it's a craft flower, and let people really kind of use that as what the selling points are. Right? Like just for instance, like liquor, for instance, or even wine. You know, you have your $9 bottle wines, you have your $12, $15, you have your vintages. Most of the stuff that you see on the $9 bottles of wines are filled with a lot of fillers, not so much wine, but just a lot of other nasty stuff. Where you have the vintage stuff, those guys have been in business for, you know, probably a decade. They know their grapes, they know what type of genetic of grapes, what type of temperature it likes, and all that fun stuff. And then when people buy those products, they're not looking at the percentage of THC. I mean, of
alcohol,
Yeah, they're looking at, you know, what type of grapes were used, which vineyard, which family stay was involved, what type of dirt was used, all that.
Yeah, that's the soil, the location, the weather, the year, so much.
And I think that's what gives it its prestige, you know, value.
Yeah.
And I think if we can kind of do the same thing with flower and be like, hey, you hold this product in regard. You know, that's why I don't like doing certain things. I don't like putting certain products on sale and or taking deals because I don't want to deteriorate the brand's reputation. Yeah. I think that's, you know, why am I going to sell something cheaper just so that I can get out the door and deteriorate the brand's name?
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
I just feel wrong about it. Some other companies do it, which is fine. They have deals, right? But how do they feel about their brand?
Yeah.
If they're undercutting their brand's pricing just so they can get into some of these big box retail stores, that's fine. But now you're degrading your brand at a lower price when you took the time to do everything to separate yourselves from those budget buys and you put yourself in this other category. But now you're taking cuts because people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Is educating on the product and selling it at a price point. So,
it's tricky. The incentives are very much like sales revenue. It's not very much profit because you can be like, hey, I made X amount of dollars in revenue, but like if you're cutting your prices and just because you bought more things doesn't necessarily mean like long term it's a good decision, right? It's like, I don't know, it's Toyota and Lexus, right? That's why they have their two different brands. They don't have like an expensive Toyota and a cheap Toyota. It's like two different ones, right? But I like your analogy with the alcohol and stuff. Like that makes like tons of sense. You know, you don't go into LCBO and be like, I want to get wasted. And then, you know, I mean, sometimes you do. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you do.
You know, again, right, depending on the age and where you're at, right? Like when you're growing up, you might just grab yourself, you know, I love Canadian growing up, right? Or even like Moose Creek Mountain Ices or oldies, right? Now as an adult, you know, I'd rather spend a couple extra bucks and get something quality, which is not going to give me, you know, a really brutal hangover the next morning, right?
Yes.
And then people don't understand that either as well, too. When you smoke lower grade flower, you're going to have different effects in the morning and throughout your headaches and all that stuff, right? Where when you're, you know, burning higher grade quality product, the purity of those products is that much better.
100%.
And I think that's the other thing people need consideration too. It's cheap because they're using cheap stuff to feed it.
100%.
Right? Just like say produce, for instance, right? If you want organic, you know, you got to provide more quality stuff, which astonished me still because organic means that you put less stuff into your food, but it's still more expensive. But you know, stuff that's GMO is cheaper, but God knows how much money they spend to genetically modify those products to get it to their, you know, ideal product. Again, if you're eating all GMO products, or, you know, you're eventually gonna maybe grow a third toe or something, right?
Let's hope not. I hope not.
But that's where that is. It comes down to, right? It's like, know what you're putting in your system. You're putting in your body. This is your temple. And if you're buying low grade stuff, do know you're gonna have a lot of impurities in that. Where if you buy better quality product, it's going to be more purity into that product, better quality, you know, nutrients were used to it, better flushes, you know, things like that. And you're also absorbing that into your body. So always keep that in mind too as well. Yeah, you might save a buck, but what type of quality stuff are you putting into your body?
Makes sense.
Like from distillate to rosin. Like if you're smoking distillate your whole life, you're going to have really bad problems. But if you're burning rosin, which is 100% solventless, no chemicals, you know, you're gonna love it. Your body's gonna love it. You're gonna get to enjoy that much more longer.
100%. the going back to the employee kind of conversation very quickly. So, you go to all these stores, like you said, you visit all these 3 stores, and they're not close by any means. You got to drive a decent ways away. And I think as an employer or as a boss or, the person in charge, whatever you want to name yourself, the problem I think sometimes is that there's a balance of providing constructive criticism versus just telling people what to do every single time because they're doing it wrong. Because I think it's very easy as a person in charge to be like, hey, can you do things this way, this way, this way, this way, because you want it done differently. And it can come across very much as, oh, I don't want to see this guy because every single time he comes in, he just tells me what I'm doing wrong. And, that's it.
Well,
so
we
how
try
do you...
right in the start, to be honest, when we interview people, we ask them, how good are you taking criticism?
Yeah.
Because that's obviously very important in how you are able to observe words and to see that, we're working as a team. And that's the one thing that I tell most of the guys on my team, or everybody on my team, not just most, but understand that, we work as a unit. And if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, that also puts more pressure on the rest of the team. And that's not fair.
Right.
And when we do have group discussions, we're having group discussions. We're not individually particularly putting anybody one fault out. And if we are, we'll bring you to the side, but hey man, everything okay? Because 9 out of 10 times, most people aren't doing things on purpose. There's other things in life that are bothering them that we all bring into the workplace, right? A lot of these guys are working like 35 to 40 hours a week. They probably spend more time with us at the store than they probably do at home. So sometimes the stresses of life come in and, guys slip. And then that's where I just ask, like, hey, everything's all right? Like, you're good at home, family's good, anything bothering you, is girlfriend's treating you all right, or a boyfriend treating you good, and just, treat them like family, right? And to the point where they don't want to be part of it, and that's okay as well too. But, I've had conversations with some of the team members to be like, yo, did I fuck up? Pardon my language, but nah, man, it's just something that we want to do across the board. It's something that we just want to make sure that everyone's aware of, and not just particularly you, but if you think that it's something that's directed to you, maybe that's a personal thing. It's not something that I've said, and if I was going to say it to you, I would have pulled you to the side and be like, hey man, you're slipping. Let's catch up, or if something like, what can I do to make your job that much more, more efficient? So, I think the continuous conversation on a weekly basis, that's why I try to talk to my team, every day in my R&D group, just to make sure I check in with them, and then individually within the other groups that I've created. And then I talk to my managers almost every other day or on a daily basis, just to be, hey, anything we need for the following week. If you do, communicate it to me, and I'll make sure I try to get on top of it. Mind you, sometimes I slip myself, and I tell them too, well, if I slip, I apologize. It wasn't intentionally. It's just sometimes, life kind of spirals on you, and sometimes you miss a thing or two, not intentionally, but 9 out of 10 times, most human errors are human errors. They're not done intentionally. I just try to reassure them that, for one, they have the right information, and if not, provide them the correct direction of what we're looking to do. And if they have something that they can do that works for them, keep doing it until it doesn't, and then figure it out, and we'll sit down and get back on the drawing board. It's always a moving, revolving thing, right? It's not what worked one month may not work the next month. So we have to be very adaptable to us as a team of what we're doing, and then talk, man. As you can tell, I can talk a ear off, but I catch myself doing that too. No,
this is perfect. I mean, perfect podcast guest, by the way, because then you can, kind of go ahead and speak your mind, just as a complete side note. It's very difficult having guests on who give like one answer sentences, you know what I mean? And then it's just like, it's very difficult for me to kind of pick up and be like, okay, how do we elaborate on this? But you're giving me tons of information and also dropping nuggets. Like, this is fantastic.
I appreciate it, brother. That's help, right? Like, again, the community thing, right? Like, if I can help someone be successful and, get that energy from them to be like, hey, he gave me some, good dubs, then, God's going to bless me tenfold after, right? I'm not looking for a handout. I'm not, I do certain things just to help, and in the hopes of, people see that And I'll try to do it more or less behind closed doors because I'm doing it genuinely for that person.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, man. If we can't help each other, especially the independent teams out there, right? There's a lot of great guys or team people that I've met through this industry in the last year and a half that we just vibe, man. It's just because we're very like-minded of what we're trying to do, you know, from Nick at Montrose to Vishal over there as well, at Terps and Rec. Tom at Uptown, you know, very like-minded individuals, and you know, having conversations with those guys as well too is always a delight, and just finding the right energy, right, and who really needs to reciprocate it, like reciprocate, and you want it back as well too. So we just, you know, every time we see each other, there's always positive energies. There's no animosity, even though we're hustling in the same game. We can hustle. There's enough food on the table for everybody, right? And you know, in the hopes of that we all can kind of get to the top without having to, you know, stop on each other.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What you put out into the universe is what it gives back. Yeah,
man. Trust me, I'm a firm believer of manifestation, man, because you know, I've manifested what I wanted to do here. I manifested a lot after my accident. And for me, you know, I wanted to walk again after my accident, and I had to manifest that because they told me they were going to do the polar opposite. They told me I'd be walking with a cane for the rest of my life, and I'm out here walking normally, and 9 out of 10 times people see me like, yo, you have a disability? I'm like, yeah. It's the manifestation of what we're trying to create, and taking that same thought process into the industry. If we want this industry to be great, we got to manifest those things. We got to inspire people to change their menus to better products. We got to kind of get together and talk flower and bud and be like, hey man, like, let's stick together on what we're doing and what we're vocalizing to the rest of the community, because we have to be the reflection of what we want. And if I was to do the same thing as everyone else is doing, then I'm just as bad as what everyone else is doing.
100%.
A little bit on that, I guess, for the other end.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. On the intent, right? You're talking about your employees, and most of it is human error. And I agree. You know, most people are not malicious in the actions that they do. But how do you go about diagnosing whether the issue was malintent or was just like, hey, I'm having a bad day? Or is it just like, you know, you have a feeling? Is it a repeat offense? How does that work?
Well, a couple of things, right? So like if it's a mispick, for instance, probably one of the most common things that happen, you know, someone puts in like, say, a Pearls raspberry and then pick a wrong product, right?
Sure.
That could have been just a couple of things. Maybe they looked, but they picked wrong, you know. Then there might be a situation where someone got charged for 3.5 grams, but mispicked and gave them a 14-gram bag. You know, like, were you paying attention? Was the conversation that you were having with the customer, you know, direct result of what happened? Sometimes customers come in and be like, hey, I want this, this, and this, and last minute they change their mind. And the transaction's already been done, but not realized. That they have to go back and do the refund and all that. And sometimes you get caught up in your own thoughts. So, you know, sometimes if it's a 1-2 error and we catch it and we establish that there was a human error, but if it's like the 3rd or 4th time, that's when I'm like, okay, you know, there's a problem. Either you're not paying attention or you're hooking somebody up. And sometimes I'll look at the sales of who those individuals that got those hookups. The same person, then 9 out of 10 times you can say, oh, this guy's hooking his friend up. And he's doing it intentionally. But if I see the inconsistency of it with several different customers, then maybe there's something that we need to do.
Training, something along those lines. You know,
so
makes sense.
We haven't had too many of those problems within our store. You know, we've never had theft in our store. We've never had any type of, you know, end of day cash, you know, lower than what it's supposed to be.
Nice.
You know, mispicks I'm okay with. I can live with it. I tell my team, don't worry. Like if it's a mispick, don't feel ways about thinking that you're gonna get yelled at me or something, which I never normally, you know, do at all. But it's obviously not, hey, I don't want to get the boss man upset or angry that I messed up or something. So I always tell them, like, if it's a human error, I'm okay with it. We can live with it. Like, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, but then there's things that sometimes you see with consistent, you know, habits, and that's where sometimes you do have to correct those, because maybe they think that they can get away with it, or that they think that we're not watching or we're not paying attention. You know, for me, my biggest thing is I let you slip. And if you slip, you have no one else to blame but yourself. So when the hammer comes down and we say, hey man, enough's enough, you're no longer with the team, that was the end result based on your actions.
Right.
If I'm providing you a great atmosphere, I'm providing you a good price or salary to what you've asked for, I've given everything you've, requested on my behalf.
Yeah.
We give people time off when they request it, as long as they give us a 2-week heads up. They have a special obligation, brother's graduation, or they have a family vacation, we accommodate to that.
Yeah.
We're very making sure that there's a balance between life and work. And I want to make sure that they have that as well too, right?
Right.
Because I've been in other places where it was all work, and there was no life. And I'm like, I don't want to create that environment.
Yeah.
So if I'm giving all the things that I would want as an employee I'm an employer, then the only end result is that if something does happen, the ball was in your court. You could have made it better for yourself, because I think, in my opinion, that I provided a great environment. I provided good wages. Like, no one on my team is on minimum wage.
Awesome. It sounds like you set your employees up for absolute success and absolute accountability, to where if they're not accountable to the responsibilities that you've given them, then you know it's not a right fit, but it's because of their behavior, not because of yours.
Exactly. If someone's showing up 50 minutes late 1-2 times, I get it. You're late from school. Hey, Raj, I'm being 50 minutes late. I get it. And that's why I tell them, if you're going to be late for school or from another job or another obligation, let's just give you another half an hour on your schedule, so you didn't show late.
Yeah.
You start at 4:30 instead of 4 o'clock. Let's just make it so it doesn't look like you're coming late.
Yeah.
Just so we can help you on that. That way your track record doesn't look good. But if I do it for 4:30 and you're still showing up late at 4:30,
problems.
Then, dude,
problems.
Yeah, exactly. It's either time management or, you're lying.
Yeah.
So, again, I haven't had too many issues on my team.
Yeah.
I've only had to let go maybe 2 people in the last 3 years.
Yeah. Wow. And, that's amazing. That's like something to congratulate you on. Like, that's really awesome. These retail customer service jobs are no jokes in terms of employee training.
Yeah. I've had other people working full-time jobs that work part-time with me that even came up to me like, yo, man, this is probably the hardest thing for me to say. I can't, because I have more, responsibility to my other job. But he's like, I still want to be on the team. If you ever need me, call me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, done. You still get the employee discount. You still get the love, and it's always there, right? For me, that's where it's like, we're not just building relationships for our work relationship. This is a long-term relationship. So
awesome.
That's where I always try to embody that. I try to say it to them. I've had people on my team now that start off as a customer. I'm now working with them. So, for me, it just shows that transition where I found somebody that came in that ended up becoming on the team, and now they've been my assistant manager. So it's like, even though if you're a customer or whatever, it's like, yo, we'll make relations. Like, we're going to be family. We're going to, continue the relationship as long as you want to continue it. I'm always going to be open to the conversation. I'm always going to be open to having a relationship, and to whatever level it is. At the end of the day, the ball's in your court if you want to be on this team, and if you want to do what we're asking to do. And I have the obligation of making sure certain things are done, and we can break bread.
Fantastic.
Right.
Where do you see the cannabis landscape changing over the next couple of years? Look into your crystal ball.
Yeah.
Tell me what you see.
That's a very hard question, because I've seen certain things that happen in other provinces that are kind of concerning. And I think that there needs to be a little more involvement of the government in certain levels of enforcement of certain bylaws. There's certain still illegal dispensaries running and operating, and nothing to them as well. Like, do what you got to do, boo-boo, to get your money. But understand that we're doing certain things that we have to do when it comes to paying taxes and certain things like that. But when it comes to the industry as a whole, I think that there's going to be a great amount of great products coming in the next 2 years or 3 years. I think everybody's going to step their game up when it comes to the growing. So you're going to get great products for even better pricing.
Yeah.
But I also worry about some of these, I guess, big box retail stores, to be honest, and how they manage and how they interact and how they, are disrupting certain things within independence, but as well as what they do. So I really hope that there's more independent people out there, more mom and pop shops, because that's what we really need to have those relationships with those customers. I also think that the government also needs to allow us to have more options when it comes to, or not so much with the government, but say other institutions when it comes to, business financing. Like I myself have to use a credit union for a bank. I can't even go to a TD bank that I've had a bank account since I was 15 years old. Yeah. I can't open up my business account there, which sucks because I love working with TD. But I can't take my business.
Not sponsored, by the way. It's not sponsored.
No, of course, not sponsored.
Okay, I'm kidding.
That's where knowing that institution for many years, I have my mortgage with them as well too.
Yeah.
But to have everything under one umbrella and have those things, I think that we're going the right direction. But I think people need to be more open to it, and I think that the government itself needs to help the independent, because we're the ones that are being the advocates for good products. I'm not saying the other big box retailers aren't, because there's probably a lot of great bud tenders that are working for some of these companies, but probably are not getting the respect and love that they need. And that's why sometimes I get individuals that come from these big box retail stores and be like, yo, can I work here? Because like they're not appreciated there. I think that's where, there needs to be a lot more. And the one thing that I would love to see between me and you is the availability of products from the States. I think if we ever open up that border between Canada and the States down south when it comes to products, that's when we as a whole in Canada is going to just, our menus are going to go nuts. And I think that's where both the LPs here in Canada are going to be able to get some of their products into the States as well. But we'll be able to get an abundance of products from the States as well too. And, it's a win-win for both sides, I think. Yeah. That's one thing that I would love to see on that side of things. And I think a lot of customers would as well too, because I've had the opportunity to smoke a lot of weed as well in a lot of different states, California, Florida. For me, bringing some of those products down here would be wonderful for our customers, right? They got
a bigger issue. They got to get their own product to their own states first, and then that's another beast. Not to get too sidetracked, but they have an awesome, most, if not all of them are vertically integrated, so they're growing their own stuff. But that's a complete other beast altogether. So what's next in store for you and for Piffingtons?
For one, we want to continue to kind of stay innovative with our products. We are looking to expand as well too. We're working on that as well.
Nice.
And we'll hopefully have some more information with those projects in the next couple of months. The other things I really want to do is to kind of start creating some events in the cannabis community. Either if it's like amateur night at one of our stores, or a consumption lounge, or doing comedy night where we can bring some of the LPs out as well, have an opportunity to share some of their stuff. So just a lot more community things, I'll be honest, is where I'm really kind of focused towards in this coming year. And just to kind of get more involved and to be that much more involved in the community. If it's us sponsoring, events for certain things, it's just getting more community involvement, I think, is really going to allow us to show our appreciation to those that support us, but as well as to, again, just change the stigma of cannabis within, in this industry.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the last question that I always like to ask, because the answer is always different despite the question being the same. Yeah. What would you say to a dispensary owner who's looking to take it to the next level? And the next level is anything that you would deem the next level.
If they're thinking about taking it to the next level, for one, know your products. Again, that's the most important part. And as well as be true to who you are as a brand. There's a lot of places that kind of did the same cookie cutter type of, look and layout, which is fine. But if you really want to stand out from the rest of the pack, be who you are and let your place and let your I call it my tribe, express that. And the people that work for me reflect me as who I am, and I want like-minded individuals. So if you are thinking about taking it to the next level, your experience and products and energy that you're going to bring to how you interact with your customers is going to allow you to take it to the next level. Awesome. If you want, mediocre results, that's also going to reflect on your energy that you put in. So, if you want higher results, then you're going to need more energy. Get in the gym, get your pump out. If you need, your protein shakes in the morning, whatever it is to get your mind and your energy to that next level, that's to only be reciprocated, and put what you want out in the universe to reciprocate it back.
Right. Just boom, mic drop, nuggets.
Yeah, there you go.
Fantastic. Now the last segment is all yours. Tell people where they can find you. Feel free to plug everything.
Yeah, we're in Kitchener, Milton, and Brampton, 200 Lorraine Avenue, Unit 3A in Kitchener. You can check out my team out there, Jamal, Ashley, Damien, and Simon. Then you got my team over there at 100 Bronte Street. We got Shazzy, Sheru, Moses, as well as Chris out there holding it down for the Milton tribe. And then we got the boys in B-Town over at 345 Queen Street West, Brampton, at Unit 10. You got Justin. You also got Noor. You also got Muskan, a.k.a. Moose, and as well as myself out there, and as well as special guest time to time is Gerbier out there as well too. But any of those individuals will be happy to help you guys out to find the right products. If you are looking for good quality craft products at reasonable pricing, and as well as any information for therapeutic products, either myself or anybody on my team would be happy to help you guys out with that.
Boom. That's how you know Raju is the man. Name drop all the addresses, all the locations, and the key team members. Let's go. Raju, thank you very much. Really appreciated having you on the show. Like I said, you had some really, really awesome insights, I think, aside from the business point, but I think applying a lot of the things that you said to personal life, I think people would be much better off having people like you in their corner. So
I appreciate it. Well, thank you again for having me on your platform as well. Okay.
No worries. Well, everyone, thanks for listening. Until next time, I will see you later.
Okay, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.